Good evening, everyone. I'm going to call this meeting to order. I want to wish everyone
A Happy New Year. It's the Brawley City Council and successor agency to the Brawley Community Redevelopment Agency adjourned regular meeting for Wednesday, January 3rd at 6 p.m. Again, Happy New Year. Hope you've had some time to enjoy with your family and your friends. So, roll call, please.
The minutes will reflect all council members present.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the invocation by Pastor Richard Rodriguez from House of Bread Ministries, and I don't believe Pastor Rodriguez is in. So I will, if you can please stand. Actually, I'll hand it off to Luke, if you don't mind.
Invocation?
Sure.
All right. Let's pray together. Heavenly Father, we're very grateful for this opportunity to gather together to serve our community, and we're grateful for the citizens that are concerned for the plight of our town as well. We ask that you would oversee the operations here tonight, that we would be able to make wise decisions on behalf of our town, that you would keep all of our staff and employees safe, and we thank you for the blessing of a new year, and we ask that you would just watch over us in 2018. I pray in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you. And our fire chief, would you lead us in the pledge today?
I sure will.
All right.
Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that, and welcome back, Chief Peraza, and thank you for the work that you've been doing throughout the state. So thank you. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There was a second and 2.5.
Second.
All right. The second was Sam?
Yes.
Yep. All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is public appearances and comments, not to exceed 4 minutes. This is a time for the public to address the council on any item not appearing on the agenda that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city council. The mayor will recognize you, and when you come to the microphone, please state your name for the record. You are not allowed to make personal attacks on individuals or make comments which are slanderous or which may invade an individual's personal privacy. Please direct your questions and comments to the city council. Is there anyone here who would like to make a public appearance or has a comment for the city council? Seeing none, we will move on to item 2A. That's the introduction of pre-treatment and distribution operator Omar Valderas by Guillermo Sillas, our Public Works Director.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Guillermo Sillas, Public Works Director. Happy New Year for everyone.
Happy New Year.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to present Omar Valderas, who is a resident of the city of Brawley. He's graduated from Brawley Union High School and also attended Imperial Valley College to learn water technology. Mr. Omar Valderas has a water distribution grade 2 certification and will test soon for water treatment and backflow prevention. Mr. Valderas was working for the city of Brawley as a volunteer and now will work for the city as a water distribution and pretreatment operator. I'm happy to introduce to you Mr. Omar Valderas.
All right.
I'll say thank you, everybody, for this opportunity. I will continue on my studies to make sure that we provide the best service to my city. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Good job.
And you look sharp.
Yeah,
Very
and he looks fantastic.
Yeah.
Mr. Valderas, we have some comments from the city council. Anybody would like to start off with a commentary?
Sure. Outside of, again, thank you for starting off as a volunteer. I'm always very encouraged to hear that. And you're a great example, I hope, for a lot of others that might be looking at whether it's similar type of work or public work. That volunteering is always a great way to start off in any career, but more importantly, you're willing to make a life out of serving your community. So again, appreciate it. Congratulations.
Thank you. Mr. Couchman, Councilmember Couchman?
Certainly appreciate the job you do for the city. Congratulations on the appointment to the position, and we expect great things, and we always like to hire people from Brawley.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Valderas,
Yes.
congratulations and welcome to the city of Brawley. We welcome anybody that likes to do that kind of work. I did a tour of both plants actually, and I'm so impressed with people that have that skill and are able to do that kind of work. I really admire people that go into that field. So I wish you a lot of luck and a long career with the city of Brawley.
Thank you.
Yes, congratulations, Omar. Welcome aboard. It's good to meet you, and I hope you stick with us.
Yes, definitely.
Final comments here, Mr. Valderas. Congratulations. Nice to see you again. And I'm impressed with the fact that you did volunteer, and now you're in a permanent role here in the city. So congratulations on that, and I hope you have a long career here, and you're able to advance over the years and advance your career, not just professionally here, but also your education. So congratulations to you, and welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very nice. Very nice.
Thank you. All right, everyone. So the next item on the agenda is a special presentation. It's a proclamation in honor of January 2018 as Gang Awareness and Prevention Month in the city of Brawley. And there is a proclamation. It's been written out. I will be presenting it to the MAG Coalition this coming Friday. And I'll just read the first couple of lines here just for everybody's understanding. So it's a proclamation designating the month of January 2018 as Anti-Gang Awareness Month, whereas the Mothers and Men Against Gangs Coalition, which is MAG, is an organization formed to provide awareness to combat gang violence throughout the Imperial County, and whereas MAG was formed in 2013 by the parents of a young man who lost his life due to gang violence, and whereas MAG brings together parents, youth, community, partners, churches, and educators to eradicate gang activity by spreading the message that there is no room for gangs. So there's other items on there in the proclamation. They're not here to receive it today, but I did want to make you aware that we will be presenting that this Friday, and I want to congratulate them on their proclamation. So thank you all. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Items are approved by one motion. Council members or members of the public may request consent items be considered separately at a time determined by the mayor. Is there a motion to
I'll
approve
make a
the
motion.
consent?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to
All right.
approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
There's a motion and there's a second. Any discussion by council? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is regular business, and that's mayoral appointments of the city council members to boards, commissions, and committees, pages 44 and 46 through 46. And so I've reviewed it. I don't have any changes that I'm requesting personally for myself. Is there any other? I know Councilmember Hamby reached out to me with interest in some of the boards that were previously filled by former Councilmember Noriega. And why don't we just go through them together, please, so we can. And it's pages, again, it's pages 44 through 46. So, Brawley Chamber of Commerce is currently Sam Couchman, Councilmember Couchman, unless you tell me there's interest in changing,
I'd like to
we'll
stay.
just remain. All right.
And who's the backup on that one?
The alternate, is there a person who's considered or interested in becoming the alternate?
Yeah, go ahead.
I would like to do be the alternate if that's fine with. the rest
I
of the
would
council.
welcome that, certainly.
Okay.
So delegate is Councilmember Couchman. The alternate is Councilmember Kastner-Howdigi. Okay.
Thank you.
On the next one, it's Imperial County Air Pollution District Board of Directors. The delegate is Councilmember Couchman, and the alternate is Councilmember Kastner-Howdigi. The next item is Imperial County Emergency Food and Shelter Program. The current delegate is Councilmember Kastner-Howdigi, and the alternate for that is open. Is there someone who's interested in filling that role? Not everyone at once. Is there?
If we need an alternate, I don't mind.
Okay.
Looks like I'm in a lot of alternate positions.
Mayor Pro Tem Wharton. The Imperial Imperial County Film Commission. I'm currently the delegate, but I would like to offer that to Councilmember Hamby if you're interested in following that pursuit. I know that you're involved with NOCA and other. Would you be interested in serving as a delegate?
Sure.
Okay. And I can remain as the alternate.
There you go. So you're going to switch that around, so Hamby will be the
Yeah, the
delegate.
delegate.
Yeah.
And
I've served on that for several
Novel
years.
will be the alternate. Okay.
The Imperial County Transportation Commission, that will remain. Imperial County, those are all the same meeting.
almost,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Okay, so the next one is League of California Cities. I don't see that changing. Next is North County Coalition of the Arts, and I did briefly discuss this item with Council Member Hamby. He had some interest in it, but you currently serve in another capacity. Is that correct?
Right, yeah, I'm
Okay.
on their board.
Okay.
As a voting member, I guess I can't be the council liaison at the same time.
Okay.
I think the council liaison is a non-voting, I think it's a non-voting membership, member.
And you had been approached to serve?
I was asked by several of the people at NOCA to potentially submit my name to serve, and they explained the situation with you and what was going on.
Are you
And so-
interested in serving?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
So.
And as far as an alternate, is there an alternate?
Do you want to serve as alternate?
I will
Okay.
I will not
Oh,
serve
okay.
as the alternate.
Okay.
Is there someone interested in serving?
Well, it's between us.
I'm looking at Kestner Howdigi as the alternate.
Okay,
Norma?
that's fine. Mhm.
Okay. Okay. And Imperial County Community and Economic Development, I don't see that. You meet how often there?
They don't meet every month.
Yeah.
They meet maybe every quarter. Usually they give you quite a bit of advance notice. I have had to utilize an alternate, or the city staff has attended, I think, in some cases. But I'm well aware of it. I've been on it many, many years. And so if you want to leave me on there, that's fine. Or if anybody
Okay.
else would like to take that, I'm okay
No,
with that
that would
too.
be fine. That would be fine with me.
Okay.
I can't remember a time where I actually attended a meeting as an alternate, so it's you've been
Okay.
doing a good job. So the next one is Abandoned Vehicle Abatement Joint Powers Authority. This is fairly inactive, but we have Francisco Soto.
Right. May I suggest that we put Gordon into the lead and alternate could be Oscar Escalante, our building official,
Okay.
unless the council member wants to.
No, that's
No, I
perfect.
think that's-
The next one is the California Joint Powers Insurance Authority, and I've been the delegate, and I'll remain there. Is there an interest in an alternate?
Sure, I was interested in the alternate
Okay.
position. And they meet quarterly?
They meet.
Or
There's
semi-annually?
really a annual meeting that we participate at, so there's not really a lot of activity other than the updates that we get to council. So they meet like the executive board meets, but we don't obviously participate in
There's
those.
some great education opportunities.
Yes. That they offer.
But that's for everyone. But really, it's just an annual meeting. So
Was that Donnie?
yes.
As the alternate? Okay.
Southern California Association of Governments remains. Association of California Cities Allied with Prisons. I don't know if we've had a lot of activity in that.
Former council member Noriega was actually serving as the board president
Okay.
for that organization.
Is there an interest from anyone on the Association of California Cities Allied with Prisons?
This particular meeting involves
There's two annual
travel,
meetings. There's travel. There's two annual
Bay
meetings.
Area travel.
Uh-huh.
I can't do a lot of
And what are their responsibilities?
You're responsible for every prisoner in the state of California.
And Imperial County.
Yeah.
No, not even.
I think
That's
the
a lot of
city's
them.
involvement in the organization has sometimes been active, sometimes not.
Yeah.
City of Imperial historically has been active in it,
Yeah.
but not in other jurisdictions
And we met
of the
with
valley.
them, remember, briefly, in the hallway. Remember, we did meet
Yeah,
with
we
some
did.
local
Yep.
electeds. Yeah, and
At-
so they
at
were
the
looking
lead.
at ramping that up. I don't know if anybody's interested in pursuing that. Okay, anyone?
I don't like that travel.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Luke?
but I don't
No,
like
but-
to travel.
But I have another.
Another commitment.
Well,
All right, so
well,
I will say this. I'll step up and be the delegate. How about that? Is there an alternate?
I'll be the alternate.
Why, thank you. I'm going to reverse those roles. Okay?
Yeah. That doesn't meet
Thank
very
you,
often.
Chester.
though,
No, it
does
doesn't, but
Maybe
they
once
do.
a year or something, maybe a couple of times a year,
It's a few times a year.
a few times a year. If anything happens, let me know and we can
Okay.
switch out
Yeah,
if we have
if-
to.
if not,
All right, so the next items are on the back page. If you could follow me here. Airport Advisory Commission. I don't see that necessarily changing, right? Imperial Valley Housing Authority. We currently have the liaison is Councilmember Kastner Howdiggy, and the alternate is open. Is there someone who's interested in?
I can go ahead and take the alternate.
Okay.
And I'm just looking ahead, assuming Councilmember Hamby's maybe got some other
Yes, that's true.
obligation. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be willing to take the next 3.
Oh, you're willing to?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's right.
Yeah,
I saw the swoop
We're on
coming.
at the
so-
end.
That's perfect.
Are you ready?
So the Library Board of Trustees.
I was going to wrestle him for that one. Huh?
Oh, yeah.
They have to wrestle, yeah.
go.
Yeah. Okay.
Are you interested in that as well, Councilmember Kastner? How do you?
Which one, the library?
Mm-hmm.
I'm
No.
willing to give up the alternate if you'd like to be the alternate in the library.
Okay.
Would you like to do that? I mean.
Well,
Yeah,
I'm
she's
already
interested
going to,
in
see,
those.
I'm already alternate for the next 2.
Oh,
and
okay.
I actually want to remain as part of those, so,
So you want to
Okay.
leave me on that one?
yeah, I'll
All
just
right.
leave you. Yeah.
Okay. All right, that's fine.
Okay.
I like being on the library, but I don't think I've ever hardly ever had to attend. I think Ms. Noriega did most of the attendance. I don't think she ever missed. So.
Do you have your library card? No?
Yes, I think I do. They probably have it on file.
I need to renew mine.
I still have mine.
I need to renew mine. When was the last time you were at the library besides tamales? For tamales? It's been a while.
I beg your pardon. No, I was there for the tamales, and I do occasionally come
See?
in, don't
See,
I?
you didn't have another answer.
Yeah.
And I was back for additional tamales, too,
Yeah,
by
see,
the way.
he's like,
I
so
went
I was
back
there
in
twice.
for the
See?
additional tamales that
There
I
you go.
ordered at Santa for
Well,
Christmas.
Right.
I took my grandkids, and they almost asked me to leave because they were getting a little wild.
Oh, wow.
Oh, really? Oh, no.
I took Sam. They asked me to leave, too.
Yeah, no. Oh, Sam doesn't
All right.
like wine.
Parks and Recreation Advisory Commission, Youth Commission, and that is the liaison is currently open. And Councilmember Hamby, you had interest in that?
Yes.
And Councilmember Kastner Howdiggy, would you remain the alternate?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
And the Planning Commission? We
Yes.
had we have Councilmember Hamby who's interested in that. Is that one you would like, Councilmember Hamby?
Yes.
Okay. And the alternate, Councilmember Kastner Howdiggy. Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to remain.
All right. So that is the. Were you able to track that? Good. All right. Let's rock and roll. Thank you all very much.
Yeah, just, the last page.
So
Save the best for last.
next item on the agenda is regular business 5B, discussion and potential action regarding formation of an ad hoc committee to update city council norms and procedures. And norms and procedures are listed on pages 47 through 57. I think there was interest from Councilmember Kastner Howdiggy to develop this committee. So I would like to nominate you to lead that discussion.
That's
and
fine.
and I would also like to nominate Mayor Pro Tem Wharton to form that ad hoc committee, unless there's other suggestions from council. Is there any other suggestions?
No, I'm willing to accept that.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
So that's the slate that I would like to propose, and if in fact I'll make the motion if somebody's interested in seconding that, please. I'll make the motion to make the ad hoc committee led by Councilmember Kastner Howdiggy, followed by Mayor Pro Tem Wharton, to review the norms and procedures. For
Mayor,
the council.
will there be other members on this committee, or?
It would just be an ad hoc committee for this council, so it would just be those two members. They would discuss the norms and procedures and bring back their advice or their suggestions to the full council for approval or change or no change if that is what's desired. So,
Is there room for one more?
well,
would be a public
it would be.
If you had 3 council
Yeah.
Oh,
members
gotcha.
So
together, yeah.
there'd only be room for 2.
Okay.
But I think, Mr. Mayor, I think we should be charged, just for the public's benefit as well. Any reviews, any revisions, any addendums, any of those things would certainly come back to council for council discussion.
Sure.
So give us an opportunity to maybe drill in a little bit, take a deeper dive into some of what has been written. Also, is by way of a little bit of history, the fact that there was not very long ago where this document didn't even exist. So it was created, I think, within the past 7 years or something like that.
It was past 10 years.
2010.
Yeah,
2010.
Yeah, so
8 years.
years. Uh-huh.
See, I was off on that one. But so I think we'll put in the work between now and the next meeting, and then I would assume there would be a regular agenda item that we would come back and report it. Yeah.
Yeah, so it'll come back before this council for
Yeah, I was a little bit confused because it showed adopted in 12/19/2000, but I remember you indicating that it had been revisited after. but I
Yeah.
guess
No,
you didn't-
they
you didn't
brought it
change
up,
it.
but never was
It
adopted.
never
It
was
never was adopted.
changed.
That's what it was.
I see.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
It
It was
existed.
implemented,
Uh-huh.
but never brought to council for
Uh-huh.
adoption.
Okay.
This time it will be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I need a second.
they'll revisit it, and
Yes.
whatever suggestions are developed, they'll come back before council.
Okay.
Do we
We'll
have a
see if we
second?
approve it. So there was a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you.
I'm sorry, just if we want to set like a time frame, or do you want us to
Oh, you
just
can
get back to
pick
you
a,
on that?
yeah,
Okay.
I would just call each other up and set some time and
Okay.
go from there.
All right.
For the public's way, just Councilmember Hodge, I figure we should get together minimally at least once, if not more than that, between now and the next meeting, so it could be brought back to council. And if we still need more time, then we'll report out accordingly and maybe give an update.
Okay.
Fair enough. All
Sounds
right,
good.
sounds
Thank you.
good. Next item on the agenda is regular business 5C, discussion and staff direction regarding research request for data on assessed valuations, housing and non-housing tax exempt properties and city limits. So there was an email that was sent out by Councilmember Hamby requesting this information, and our city manager sent this out to the rest of council for placement on the agenda, tonight's agenda. City manager, would you like to add any comments on this request? Or?
Yeah, we are available as staff to perform whatever research the council as a whole wishes for us to pursue. We do have some bandwidth concerns right now regarding workload, but if this is a priority area that the majority of the council would like us to focus efforts, I will certainly do my best to work to assemble it.
Councilmember Hamby, is there a particular request that you would like to make?
Well, it was kind of related to the Chelsea investment that we're looking at going forward on. It was brought to my attention based on some history that I had seen in Westmoreland that they would manage it with a nonprofit organization, thereby not having to pay property taxes. So it made me wonder if there were other properties like that in Brawley. How many other properties are like that in Brawley? Just to get a grasp on what our tax base is, our property tax base is, to maybe get an understanding of how we should proceed in the future. Obviously, as city council, we're somewhat responsible for the direction of the city, and my concern is that if we do have a large amount of these types of properties, that could possibly be where we have a shortfall in our budget, and thereby necessitate Measure W. I know that that there are probably many causes for needing Measure W, but my hope is that by exploring this particular subject, we might see where we're at as far as balance goes in the city, as far as development, and what we can do to maybe facilitate or be helpful toward different types of development that will be bringing in property taxes and different types of revenue back into the city. Obviously, we do have to provide a place for low-income housing, and clearly there's a need for that in our community. But I also understand that the more we make ourselves attractive to low-income development, that is certainly what we will be heavy in. And so that was just that was kind of the main drive for me to want to see if it's if this is a study that's going to take a couple of years to do,
I think, if I could offer a suggestion, a short discussion, and I've always had a very good working relationship with the tax assessor, maybe a phone conversation with them just to see, they could probably pull up most of that information rather quickly for you. That might be a good way to start, because if we're looking at every tax valuation within the city, that would, obviously encompass a lot of time. And I'm sure that there are some tax-exempt properties, whether they're churches or whether they are, part of the housing authority, or whether they are, nonprofit owned or managed developments. But I can't imagine that, over the 5,000 households that we have within the city are there's not going to be a whole lot of them. But I would suggest that conversation first, and we can revisit the topic if need be. That would just be a suggestion to you. That's what I would do personally.
Mr. Mayor, my only concern is that actually there's great questions within there, but I think we need to be more specific if we were to give staff direction of what we're asking them for. And with that, I think couldn't there be just a higher level answer in there? In other words, if we're skewed with a large portfolio of low to affordable income housing, I think it'd be quite apparent. I wouldn't think that's the case. I think with respect to Councilmember Hamby's question, over time we can certainly learn more. But is there maybe a quicker way that we can do that kind of an assessment of maybe not every single project since the beginning of time in trying to identify, but I think it would be readily, maybe through, as you mentioned, maybe at the county level, tax assessor level.
Well, that's who would have the information.
Yeah, if that's who would have the info. My other question is just with the outcome of it, regardless of what we find out it's minimal or whatever the ratio, acceptable ratio. What I want to know also is what does that do? Back to Chelsea, since you brought that up, is at this point I think it was really important for the public to understand again. This is a vacant lot. This is Chelsea coming in, at least a reputable organization that does these, that works specifically in these projects. And I asked the question, I'm going to ask it again. If it's been vacant for 100 plus years, is it going to remain vacant for the next 10, 15 years? Is it the right place, the right project? And with all that being said, they're still competing in a process they may not even get.
Sure.
So I think it's real important that everyone understands that a decision was not made necessarily as to the nature of a long-term agreement. So if there's a way, again, maybe working with the county, that we can get a high-level assessment of what's out there. I think we as council, we thought it was really imbalanced. Certainly we want a deeper dive, but I just can't imagine that's the case.
As a city, we don't make distinctions between in our accounting, who's exempt and who's not. Yeah. If that information, as that information is tracked, I assume the assessor's office is the entity because they're determining whether or not they're going to receive, or they're going to assess and actually receive a bill. The other piece to it that council might consider is that great information to gather, but in the end, the city doesn't control who a property owner is. Yeah. We control the zoning. Yeah. Council has the ability to change a zone from an existing zoning designation to a new zoning designation. It's a subject of public hearings, but we don't regulate what type of owner there is.
And this might be a good, again, another topic if we can make a note of it for the strategic workshop, which really gives us a little bit more ample open time as a council to talk about longer-term strategic plans in terms of what type of development has been attracted. We can bring some more facts, perhaps, Rosanna, to that discussion.
Sure. There's additional comments.
Yeah, what's recently happened. So,
the only thing I think we can do is, I think if the city staff, maybe city manager or whoever you want to designate, call the assessor's office and find out that type of question. If we could find out the properties that are tax exempt. If we can readily, that's good. If we can't, then maybe they can tell us what that would entail and what it would cost us or what it wouldn't cost us or how long it would take them to do that. I think that's the first question you have to ask, because otherwise I don't think we have any real information on that, at least not available to the city itself.
And I appreciate that suggestion, but I would say to Councilmember Hamby, let's take that project on ourselves, because to burden staff at the moment, my feeling is just going to be, we could probably get the information rather quickly, and if we can't, we're going to find out rather quickly as well. So if you don't mind, I'd like to be able to work with you on that.
Sure, yeah, not at all. If that's something that as city council and non-staff we're able to do, that
certainly.
it's a great first step.
Yeah, certainly. Okay. Everyone,
Right.
thank you, and thank you for the request of information. And I think we're going to be able to uncover some information.
I hope so.
And hopefully bring it back to the city council.
Definitely.
Thank you. Next is Departmental Report 6. We'll start with 6A, Monthly Staff Report for January 2018. Shirley Bonillas, Personnel and Risk Management Administrator. Page 58 is the report.
Yes, sir. Honorable Mayor, Council Members, Shirley Bonillas, Personnel and Risk Management Administrator. Good news is we hired a dispatcher,
Fantastic.
All right.
and she's still working.
All right.
Very good news.
And how many days has that been?
That has been since the 27th.
A week and a half. It's in a week.
27th.
Can I
1
interrupt
week.
you on that? I'm
Yes,
sorry.
sir.
Before you move on there, how was the recruitment process? How many applications did you receive?
We received, now that's a tough question, 38.
Okay.
Facebook was mentioned, by the
Oh,
way,
cool.
Mayor, so very good if we're going to use that avenue again.
That may be something that we consider,
Yes, sir.
May get the
Definitely,
word out.
definitely was a great idea. Thank you very much. Results from those interviews was very well as well. We had 5 pass the oral interview, that 5 went into backgrounds just last week. We are finishing up on one other background. It's international, so it might take a little time. So we have a pool to work with, and hopefully it's viable. We do have 3 openings at this point for dispatchers, so we really do need them, the overtime. And we have a police officer that's a former dispatcher that moved into being a police officer, but he's also dispatching now because he's kind of helping out. So, and then we have the non-sworn supervisor that came as a dispatcher. He's got background, so he's filling in. So we're pulling all our avenues. And you met our new pre-treatment operator.
He's suited up and everything, you know.
There you go. And then we also have the water treatment plant operator 3 position just filled yesterday.
Oh, it's
So,
filled already?
yeah, current employee who took it upon, a maintenance worker that took it upon himself to get all his certifications. So he had to get an OIT,
Great.
he had to get the water treatment operator 1, and then the 2, and he just passed his 3 exams. So
Did it all on his own.
all on his own.
Yeah, that's great.
That's
Yes.
motivation for sure.
Very good,
Just
good
like
information.
Our young man here who was volunteering here for some time. I mean, that's just
We
it's
we
a
get a
different
lot of
mindset.
volunteers because
It's a
they need
different
their
mindset.
hours
Yeah.
to get their certifications going. So it's wonderful when we have young, very talented people coming on board. And of course, I would answer any questions council may have on the report.
I was just on clarification on the dispatchers. So even though you said one just
What's
started,
that?
but we still have 3 vacancies?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
We had 4.
Yeah.
But you have some that are going in the process right now?
Yes, ma'am. We have 5 from the 27th interviews that passed. So their packets were just mailed out, and we have 1 in the middle of a international type of a background, so it's going to take a little bit longer. And just FYI, that we had 2 dispatchers that retired.
Yeah.
Ms.
Right.
Lada and Ms. Leon, their retirement ceremonies are this Saturday. So please RSVP as you can to Ms. Kim. She would appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that update. I'm glad the Facebook posting helped. Anytime we can spread the word on anything. As long as we're not hiring based on likes, I think we'll be all right. Next is Departmental Report 6B, update on City of Brawley Park restroom facilities by Ruby Walla on behalf of Parks and Recreation Department, pages 59 through 61.
Good evening, Mayor, Council members. Ruby Walla, Interim Parks and Recreation Director. This is actually a follow-up item from the meeting held on November 21st, 2017, where City Council was approached by Michael Walla, Parks and Recreation Commissioner, to bring up concerns identified at park facilities pertaining to restroom activity. Just noticing, acknowledging vandalism, the cleanliness of bathrooms, the cleanliness while actual park users are active at the parks for recreational activities, in particular his experience with soccer. But again, we have abundance of activities that go on throughout the parks at the City of Brawley, whether it's Meserve Park with active softball, Gonzalez Park, Hinojosa, Alice Giroux, which is actively ramped up just this last year. So things identified, and council has been briefed as well as on vandalism, things that have taken place. Parks and Recreation last year alone did in-house massive rehab to all restroom facilities to get those up to date, improved, make them more useful for users so they have clean, reliable facilities while using the parks. And it's sad to see that those types of improvements then get damaged and don't last very long. So with that, with the help of staff, which I have Linda Self here and Miguel Perez available as well for any questions, put together one of the schedules, what you would see in the back sheet of the staff report, which identifies the number of parks and HL, meaning high use, low use, the times of the day, types of activities that are carried out at those various parks, and then their current restroom schedules and openings, which a standard schedule opening is 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. And so when looking at that, I tasked Mr. Perez to go back and look and identify, what is actually going on within those hours, and that's why we came up with the high-low use schedule, and came up with recommended changes to propose that would better suit for when there's peak users at those facilities. So the biggest changes are Cattle Call Rotary Park and Pat Williams Park are recommended with their current opening but extended to 5 p.m. The second is, and I have to make a correction, Hinojosa Park, Alice Giroux Park, and I included Pat Williams Park, but that was entered in error, so that part is already highlighted with the extended hours. Hinojosa and Alice Giroux Park are recommended for a later opening versus from 7 to 2 to be open from 2 p.m. starting at 2 p.m. And Meserve Park is proposed to be open from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. versus 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. And what this does is it just allows for those users that actively use those parks during that time frame, peak time. Any other time outside that is basically upon request. So if there's a user agreement in place, or there's some type of activity and they get scheduled directly through Parks and Recreation, then they are lights are coordinated and scheduled to be on. Okay. So what we're seeking is either council's direction or consideration for proposing these types of changes, and we're open to any other, method of changes, or keep it the same if that's the wish of the city council.
All right, I'll open that up for council discussion. Thank you, Ruby, for your presentation, for the information. Is there any questions or comments from the city council with respect to some of the proposed changes? Is there any consideration for moving forward with the proposed time changes?
I just had a couple of questions, Mr.
Sure.
Mayor. On the, and I'm making an assumption, but I just want to clarify, on the ones down towards the bottom, Guadalupe Park, Del Rio Field, and Volunteer Park, there's high usage in the afternoons and the evenings, but is that not regular? Is that why it's only on demand?
Those are primarily users that they, like the high school, they actually have a user's agreement. Soccer leagues may have a user agreement. Pop Warner, the youth football league, has a user agreement, so that they have scheduled times. So basically, if you turn the lights on, if I'm not mistaken, you could have other users come on, but it's basically has been prioritized with the user agreement. So like the high school, they are scheduled, whether sometimes, like currently they're practicing, like their soccer team is practicing during the day, so lights aren't scheduled on in the evening.
Okay,
so if they were practicing in the evening, then they would be turned on. If they have a game scheduled, that's coordinated through the Parks and Recreation Department, and they will be scheduled on. If the park's not going to be in use, we don't turn on the lights. Okay. If there's recreational activities already scheduled, like your softball programs, like the city's summer adult league program, I mean, they'll be on normal as
Jeff
scheduled.
Kissy Park, there's usually high usage there.
There's a lot of coordination, it seems like.
Yes. The
So-
staff has a calendar and a schedule, and they actually, most users know to coordinate through the Parks and Recreation Department to schedule or see who's already committed for certain fields and the lighting schedule, and if there's maintenance going on in a certain field, they do their best to coordinate with any users that they may be aware of at those fields to either redirect them to another park temporarily and so forth.
Yeah.
So they actively engage with them.
So it seems like this has been, thought out fairly well. Is there a desire by council to go based off this recommended schedule? It may change in the future, but is there any desire from council to pursue this?
I'd like,
Go ahead. Yeah, the only other, I have one other, I didn't see the Jeffrey Thornton Park on here. Is that?
No restrooms.
There's no
restroom, no
restrooms and no
restrooms
lights.
And no lights. So that's, I guess, something we can work on.
yes.
I have one
That's our
question.
future project.
On the high use with the school agreements, do the coaches have keys to the restrooms in those cases, or does Parks and Rec still have to go over and open up restrooms?
Primarily the city unlocks, or unless you can.
You
I
can
can
come
refer
up
to
here,
Miguel.
please. Miguel?
Linda,
Miguel?
for a more concise answer.
Tell us, Miguel.
So it seems like a lot of coordination and.
It is,
Yeah.
but otherwise there's issues.
Miguel Perez.
Mm-hmm.
They coordinate through the city, and most of the times we go open up the restrooms. We took away keys because everybody had keys. So better management of restrooms and keeping clean restrooms, we took away keys due to that. Everybody had keys. So we go open up restrooms. We coordinate with the users. That's how we do it.
Right. And we've had problems, obviously, because they weren't locking things up, or we had vandalism, and, we've had, tens of thousands of dollars in charges for repairs. So that's the reason that they've limited access to the restrooms.
Yeah.
As just one other additional piece of information, every night that parks are scheduled for use, we actually have someone for the locations that don't have automated fixtures for lighting. We actually have a temp worker that's assigned to turning on and turning off lights and locking up restrooms. So that's normally how we accomplish that in the evening hours. On the weekend, we have roving staff that are scheduled for partial portions of days to address weekend demands.
And where they are remotely turned on, the person goes and opens up the restroom, just the restroom. They don't have to mess around with
The lighting.
You can do it through the computer.
Sure.
So if we implement this change, which it looks like we probably will, based on your recommendations, if we have some phone calls, because people get used to, the restrooms being open already or whatever, who should the calls be directed to
Parks and Rec.
initially? To
Parks and Rec.
to Ruby right now?
Parks and
Parks and
Rec.
Rec. Parks and Rec.
Parks and Rec.
Staff.
Yes.
Oh.
A Street location.
Okay, because I'm anticipating that we may get some calls with the changes.
Sam will call me later.
We're hoping that the change in schedule will accomplish cleaner restrooms and better usage for scheduled times of
Right.
open hours.
Right.
What we
And
were
the-
also contemplating is signage that kind of
Yes.
notes when
That would be
restroom
good,
facilities are open.
And
What
then
would be a lower
great
cost
idea.
way to address the signage? Is there a way to do that where it wouldn't cost us, a
I
tremendous
mean, we
amount
could
of money?
post them on our website, but the other thing would then for someone to physically
Sure.
see.
Sure.
We have already posted signage at some of our locations. Rotary Park comes
I
to
know,
mind as
yes,
having
they
posters.
have
They're not
something
very.
similar.
They're not terribly expensive signs to produce.
Okay.
They're metal signs that get affixed to the building.
Yeah,
Sure.
that was when we were kind of,
Okay.
contemplating doing that, and that way the public is aware rather than thinking that they're always closed.
Sure.
Right.
Sure, no, and that's something I brought up the last time is like having posted hours there. I think that's important too, and so. Any other comments?
I think, like Norma said, I think we should, I would hope that we would implement the changes based upon staff recommendation, and we wait and see what the public's reaction is. And they'll probably call us, or if they're having problems, if they're not having problems, then we'll know everything is running fairly smoothly. So usually we do get calls from the public, and we'll hear out there from the public. And the city will hear, I'm sure. You'll get calls to Parks and Rec. We'll all get calls. And then we can kind of gauge what's going on. If we don't get a lot of calls, we can analyze, is there a park where we have to keep it open more, and we can make some changes to this. I think think you've got to experiment with it for a couple of months and
I
see
think
how
so
things
too.
go.
There needs to be, and if we do get calls, I'll just say, well, Miguel said that.
Miguel said, yeah, and
that
I have
use.
Miguel's number, so I'll
Yeah.
just give him that.
You're welcome.
To prepare an updated status
I need
report in
Miguel's
6
number.
months.
Right, right.
24/7.
So, is there a recommendation by council to approve this updated schedule for restrooms usage?
So moved. Mr.
There's a
Mayor.
motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I don't know that we had.
I don't even think we have
I
to
don't
make a
think
motion. It's
that's-
just an
I
update.
don't think
So.
that's really
But any opposed?
motion-wise.
No.
Motion carries.
I know I'm going to get calls.
More informal than anything. But yeah, thank you very much for the work that you did.
Thank you.
And I don't necessarily want to know how it was determined that there was high usage and low usage, Miguel. But
In the toilet.
right. But thank you for the work.
Park use,
By
not
park
restroom
use, right.
facility.
Park use. He drove by. It's a
Thank you,
drive by.
Miguel.
By citizen input a lot.
That's true.
Thank you.
I mean, they're the ones. They're the ultimate users. I mean, I always say that.
Cattle call is one of the biggest issue in Pat Williams.
Right.
Due
Yes.
to that, we close it at 2, and at 4 or 5, they're still walking.
They're
out.
still
Yeah.
walking, as long as it's light
Yeah.
outside.
I know
they're
I'm
generally walking
jovial and I
around.
joke a lot, but I realize that there's a lot of work that goes into that. And I always say that if you want to get the best information, ask the users. Whether that's through ICTC, the bus riders, they're going to tell you when the high usage is, when the low usage is, and same here. So thank you for the work that you did. I appreciate it very much. All right. Next on the agenda is city council member reports, and we will start with our newest addition, Mr. Luke Hamby. Councilmember Hamby.
Thank you, Mayor. I had the opportunity to stop in briefly on December 21st to Hidalgo Hall for their dinner, potluck, and ugly sweater contest. I did wear an ugly sweater. I don't know that they didn't call me to say that I had won, but it was definitely ugly.
Okay.
Stopped in briefly at the Del Rio branch of the library to visit with the kids there briefly. Then I had 2 birthday parties to go to after that, so it was a busy evening. Had a good and safe Christmas and New Year's. I was mostly inside, but I did walk out briefly New Year's Eve to see our fireworks display around town, which I'm sure we'll discuss. I've had, and I appreciated Mayor Nava's direction, I guess you would call it, last council meeting, that the city council would take the opportunity during the city council member reports to bring up to speed the rest of the council on interactions that we've had, positive or negative, with the public. And so I have a few things here that people have twisted my ear on. One thing that was brought to my attention was the issue of some trees that are going to be donated to, let's see, something about 350 trees from a San Diego group. Anyway, they're just hoping that those will be used, maybe 2/3 of those in some parks like Hinojosa and Alice Giroux and Guadalupe, and maybe the other third for residential planting, just to try to kind of provide some shade on some of those parks. I've had other people complain numerous times about I shouldn't say complain, it's just some very valid concerns about the condition of 8th Street / Old Highway 111 needing to be improved, repaved, whatever, because it's a high volume of traffic. It's a lot of businesses, ag businesses out there that are bringing in revenue to the city, and so seems like it would be good to use the relinquishment money, at least a portion of that, to work on that road, as I'm sure you've all had people talking to you about that. Also, I had a concerned citizen bring up the issue of pigeon abatement downtown especially, but we have a lot of buildings that are open to a degree, so that vacant buildings that pigeons are taking up residence in. And I had talked with the city manager about a product that I had found online about it's basically pigeon birth control. It's a feeder. The pigeons eat the feed. It makes their eggs infertile. Instead of killing the birds, it just makes it to where they don't produce the next generation.
Pigeon birth control, that's interesting.
Yeah, pigeon birth control. Obviously, we know we have a major problem in the theater and in quite a few of the buildings that aren't completely sealed up
And
downtown.
if I could add a comment to that, those are real city problems, right? And so when you get your opportunity here shortly to attend the new mayor and new council member conference, there's also an exposition which is part of the conference, and you'll see vendors that work with municipalities. Pigeon abatement is one of them, so you might want to spend a little bit of time with them as well. I know, but there are multiple vendors out there, so that's just a suggestion to you. There's some good vendors out there for sure that we can work with.
Great. Of course, the issue of the fireworks came up multiple times, and I think I would like to see. I don't know if it would be an education program, at least inserts in the city bills around the times of year where we have a lot more firework activity that, basically say, yes, it is illegal to bring in fireworks from Mexico or from other states that go up in the air and explode and that kind of stuff. It's obviously, it's very disconcerting to pets, to veterans with PTSD, to elderly with certain infirmities. And so, and I don't know if we need to shore up the ordinances that we might have as far as fireworks usage. I mean, I'm a patriot and I love watching a good fireworks show, but, if we do have laws in the state and in the county and in the city regarding fireworks that are not your safe and sane type, and I don't know if we need to introduce some type of a tip line where people can call in and say, hey, my neighbor brought in, a load of fireworks from Mexicali that they're planning on setting off tomorrow night, something like that. If you see something,
Just
say something.
Public education, I think, goes a long way. I mean, even if it's social media, people are on there often. Not, and we can certainly discuss that, but I think it's a great point to have on there for sure.
I also received some results of some soil tests that I requested from just a volunteer citizen, ag citizen here in Brawley, for Hinojosa and Thornton parks, and they both have about the same kind of problems. They're high in sodium and sulfur, and low in calcium, and then they've got obviously some irrigation issues, and just in keeping with the idea of improving the green in the parks, the grass in the parks. So I will email the results to you, Rosanna, and that you can send out to the rest of the council. And I'd just like to have that put on the record. And I think that's basically it for my extensive report.
Thank you, Councilmember Hamby. I appreciate the information, and it sets a good tone for the rest of council and getting some information out. So thank you very much. Councilmember Kastner-Howdy?
Yes, okay. Well, I also attended the Hidalgo Society Christmas celebration, and I did wear a Christmas sweater, but it wasn't ugly enough, so I didn't win. But not that many people actually wore sweaters, or so-called ugly sweaters, so whoever was wearing one, they made us get out there and compete. And it was a nice, small, not big group of people, but they invited, I think, all the members, but there wasn't that many people there, but it was a nice event. And the rest of the time, I actually, like most of us, spent with family, during the holiday period with Christmas and New Year's. Had people come in from out of town and did the traditional tamale thing, and, I only do it once a year, so according to my kids, I get better every year, so that's a good sign. And as far as other activity, I did also meet with one prospective buyer who's looking at purchasing a building in Brawley, and he had some questions regarding the status or the structure itself. So I actually referred him over to Gordon Gaste, and he met with him, and so they're working on resolving some issues before he moves forward on that. And I did take a little drive, and I noticed they're working on the Brawley Theater finally, so that was good. I mean, any activity there is great. I guess they finally got the asbestos remover company doing
The
their
permit is
work?
in process,
Okay.
and a meeting was scheduled for today. I didn't have an opportunity to cross-check with building official before tonight's meeting, but we are anticipating the demo of the roof and the replacement of the roof.
Yeah, so that's good.
Excellent.
And then I did have a complaint about a car that's parking in the yard, and so I'm going to share that with our police chief and see if he can take a little drive by there, because I know that according to our ordinance, that's not allowed, correct? So.
Okay, I'll move it.
And that's about it. I just, again, because it's the beginning of 2018, I want to thank all the staff for their hard work and their dedication to their jobs. There's been a lot of challenges, and we really all do appreciate all the hard work that you do. And, of course, our co-counsel and our city manager and our attorney and our city clerk. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Councilmember Couchman.
Okay. I did attend, somewhat representing the city, I suppose, for Joe Shields' funeral. As you know, she's a council member and mayor of Brawley in the past, and I felt it was important that we go representing the city. And they also received some flowers from the city, and the family was very appreciative of that. And I think that came from Alma, and they were appreciative of that. And I think it's important that we do those types of things. I also went to the career fair at Barbara Worth. They had a career fair at Barbara Worth. It was a nice career fair. I think a lot of the city employees did go. We go to the different classrooms. It's like 3 different classrooms, and you talk about careers and your job and somewhat about the city and stuff for the youth. They're a little young, but they are thinking about what they want to do. Many of them don't know what they want to do, I think, as they become adults, but they are thinking about that at Barbara Worth, and I think it's important that we get and talk to youth as early as possible about career choices, educational choices, and what they may want to do. So I thought that was very, very important. I appreciate Barbara Worth inviting me to that. A couple of other things. Fireworks certainly was a big issue for us in the west quadrant over here, as well as I think in a couple of different, almost all the quadrants in town had some fireworks issues. I know there were some, I'm sure police went out. I think we showed 7 phone calls for service. The difficulty with that, I think, is identifying where that's coming from and who's actually the perpetrator of that crime. It is a crime. It is against the law to set those kinds of things off in the city. And I think the bigger issue, too, is that when it starts 3 days before the holiday and goes 3 days after the holiday, I think people get very, very unhappy about that. It does affect the pets, and I do get calls about the convalescent hospital and different other areas over in our quadrant of town. I think the educational process is a good process. I also think we need to look at some other alternatives, but I think it really hinges on neighbors. If they're upset about it, they need to call in the police, and they have to be willing. I think it's going somewhat out on a limb to do that, and also just notify the police and give them an address of where it's occurring so they can have a better idea about pinpointing it. I did go out myself, drive around several days, I think 2 days after the holiday or 1 day after the holiday. They were still setting off fireworks. They set them off one night. I went out and drove around. It's a very difficult process if they don't continually set them off to identify where that's coming from. And I had the same problems as everybody else. You can drive down the street, you can go down the alley, but you're not going to really be able to tell. And so I think the police are in that same kind of position. And I would suggest to you that we probably have in the neighborhood of 25 to 50 perpetrators, maybe more. It's a real difficult proposition for the police, and they do get calls on other issues which probably are a higher priority, at least at this point in time. But I do think we need to address the issue. I think we need to move forward with that because it seems to be a big issue for people. I did get some calls on the beef plant, on a smell issue. My understanding is they're going through a maintenance type procedure right now, that they're working on two of the ponds, I believe, at the facility, and I would expect there would be a small amount of odor, and I would expect that would continue until they're done with that maintenance, and then hopefully that'll be cleared up and it'll get back to normal. But they'd have to be able to do maintenance. There's going to be some smell, I think, from a beef plant occasionally, as long as it's not every day for 6 months. I think we have to deal with it in some way, and so I'm trying to address that with the public that does call. It's an important beef plant's an important facility, but they need to be able to do maintenance. I did talk to the people doing some of the maintenance. I did have a little discussion with them. That's what they're working on, and I think it went a little longer a little bit longer in days than what they had anticipated. But I do want the public to be aware that we are aware of the issue, but they do have to be allowed to do certain maintenance. And I think with that, I think that's all I have to report.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Couchman. We'll hear from Mayor Pro Tem Wharton.
Yeah, absolutely. Great reports. I'll try to narrow mine down so we don't overlap on some of the same citizens I think maybe we spoke to. So, no, I think that was well covered. I did have some great conversation with some of our local downtown businesses, which really occur on a regular basis, including even today with the proprietor, and I'll let maybe the mayor cover a little bit more on that. But this is all ramping up some of the preparation I like to do going into the 2018 strategy session. So really excited about that, where hopefully we can bring forth not only the ideas and our citizen suggestions, where a lot of the great ideas do come from there. Also, what I look forward to doing is bringing really the work we began last year about the downtown discussion and plan. I think we did a presentation about 8 months ago. Maybe a little less than that, but about 8 months ago about some of that information that we were able to get from a lot of the local downtown businesses and some of the things that are well within our grasp of doing as a city. So getting ready to do, done some work on that. Also, again, I'll defer to the mayor on this, but did meet with the Small Business Development Center. Our executive director or representative from there, and really shared some really, I think, interesting statistics that I'd like to see us bring forward as a council for the rest of the Brawley public to see what businesses have been started here, what has been funded with the ones that have sought loans, others that have sought to expand their business. And to me, the one thing I like about data is that at the end of the day, it doesn't lie. It can be skewed, obviously, but I think people would be surprised when they really see, statistically speaking, how much Brawley has grown quite a bit when it comes to its commerce and small business. So I think it would give us as a council some great direction going into the strategy session. So look forward to bringing some of that forward. Outside of that, one more conversation, an ag chem professional. This is probably, I think, in an area that I know Councilmember Hamby's really been focused on as well. But this is a gentleman that's already provided some of his services at no cost to the city, some of the expertise. I wanted to see if we can get some of us together and meet with staff about actually even going as far as providing some training and some direction with our current parks, and whether it's Parks and Rec and Public Works Department maintenance crews on maybe considering some additional techniques, ideas that would also vastly improve our greenscape. So I said certainly would always be open to that. So looking forward to bringing that forward. So that is it, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Well, thank
Happy
you.
New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year, everyone. No, good stuff. I'm really excited about 2018. And, I've been able to discuss some of the goals and objectives of the council and of the city moving forward for 2018. But I'm excited in having had a discussion with the Small Business Development Center along with Mayor Pro Tem Wharton. And I also had a recent conversation with the Chamber of Commerce here in the city of Brawley. So working on some of the things that we've been doing for a few years, I think this is the year that some of these things are going to come to life. So I'm excited to see that. And just right before this council meeting, we met with Ryan Brandt, the owner of Patty's at the Rock here at the Plaza, and he had some interesting ideas that I think if we're able to bring together some more commentary from some of the other downtown business owners, I think it's going to really make a positive impact within our city. So I'm excited about that. I'm going to bring more of it a little bit later. That's just surface discussion I wanted to share with you here. But as Mayor Pro Tem Wharton has referenced, we did do that downtown or we did have that downtown discussion several months back, and I think right now is a prime time to be able to implement some of the things that we talked about to help revitalize our downtown. And once I have some more concrete information and maybe even some renderings for the rest of council, I'm going to bring them to share with you. Hopefully gets you excited as well. So I'm pumped up about some positive change within our community. So also participated at Career Day. It was scheduled at the last minute because the original organizer for Barbara Worth Junior High School had been out, but I want to thank all city staff that participated and of course Councilmember Couchman for participating and helping them out and providing input to the young minds out there. So I was also able to represent the city as the mayor, and I also talked about what I do professionally. So gave me a good opportunity to share what the city does. So good stuff. I also wanted to share with you, some of the same comments and concerns that I had regarding some of the smells from the slaughterhouse, One World Beef. That was shared with me, and my understanding that there is a group of residents that are going to be forming a committee and probably coming back to the city council to express those concerns. So, just food for thought, and just be aware that there's some group of people that are concerned about the smell and the odor. Let's see. I also I'm happy to say that I represent. I sit on the board of ICTC, Imperial County Transportation Commission, on behalf of the Brawley City Council. It's always a pleasure and honor to do that. But they've also been very, very helpful. There was a group associated with a nonprofit group here in the city of Brawley that traditionally does Christmas caroling out here. And thanks to the suggestion of our city manager, they were looking at doing some Christmas caroling on behalf of the organization and visiting the convalescent home and other areas. But because it's not allowed to be able to use a trailer to go Christmas caroling, we were able to utilize an ICTC service, and it worked out perfectly for the organization. So I want to thank ICTC and for the service provider for that, and of course our city manager for suggesting it. It was successful, and I think people enjoyed it, and it was a good use of. It was a good use of resources that are available to the public. It brought attention to that service line. It also brought attention to a nonprofit organization and others that are doing a good thing for the community. So good all the way around. And that is my report. Looking forward to 2018. I hope this is the first meeting for the year. I know everybody's sort of winding back up from the holidays, from Christmas, and from the New Year celebrations, and from the fireworks and those sorts of things. But there's a lot to discuss on those topics. I think if we collectively on the City Council can bring those items up throughout the year, and especially the early part of this year, we can discuss them and set some further guidance for the rest of the year and for future years. So look forward to 2018. I'm excited about it, and thanks everyone for all the work that you're doing. So again, thank you everyone. We're going to move on to our city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor Nava. Included in the backup are some follow-up letters that went out to our two school districts regarding the second half of this year, this fiscal year, and our expired Department of Justice grant award. So what is represented in the letters is part of council direction provided in a public meeting, which is to continue staffing the school resource officers for Brawley Elementary School District and Brawley Union High School for the rest of this fiscal year, January 1, 2018 through June 30. I did have an opportunity to follow up with both superintendents in advance of publication of the letter in tonight's agenda. We look forward to continuing to provide that service, and I've done my best to encourage both the school district and both the high school district and the elementary school district to imagine what July 1 might look like, because we're forecasting this will be a very difficult service to retain if we wish to maintain our service levels otherwise. So it will be an 80-20 split of absolute costs, and with the help of the finance department, we will be tracking every hour worked so that overtime is accounted for, whether it's part of patrol or the school-based assignment. So we'll have a very good picture of how did the 80-20 actually represent the work performed. Our estimates are that actually they come out in a more advantageous position than the city because that 20% expenditure will not reflect, we're not anticipating it will reflect the actual hours worked. We'll be getting a smaller portion of those hours of work. So we'll use it as an opportunity to continue dialogue. We do have early indications from the high school district that they are 100% committed to retaining the personnel at 100% of their cost for next fiscal year. And we'll continue those explorations with the elementary school district. I have provided as a framework the budget timeline, because it would be very critical for the council to understand where the school district stands relative to that. Otherwise, the assumption is one less person on, as part of the department. Also would like to note that with the beginning of the new year, a number of our community members have been re-energized to take on a beautification effort at the post office. So this morning I met with Mrs. Emanuele to discuss a project that she aims to undertake with the help of a local contractor, Elms Equipment, and the city to remove the shrubs. Yes, the hedges, the majority of the hedges in front of the post office. This work is on an extremely aggressive schedule, which will begin next Monday. The city will be covering the cost of the hauling the waste away through Republic Services, and we will also be, there was, just so council's aware, there was a request for 3 maintenance workers. We only have 5 maintenance workers on staff, so I explained some of the difficulties of assigning those resources to work on a non-city property. We are devoting 1 person to assist. It's rather unconventional to work on somebody's property, but given the community significance, we'll be doing our best to be flexible under the circumstances. Miguel will also be assisting with supplying the trailer that we normally use for the downtown detail crew. It'll be brought out here on premises. We will do our best to minimize parking interruptions. The storage container will be placed on the east end of the in the paved area of the post office parking lot. And it will run Monday to Wednesday with removal Thursday. We might get the project completed sooner than that. Elms has been delightful to work with, and we're looking forward to completing a project that has been the subject of much upset in the community.
Question for you, Rosanna. With respect to the shrubs coming out, is anything going in to replace it, or is it just going to be grass?
Not at this time, but there are hopes and plans to beautify the area, and our experience with Mrs. Emanuele is she has wonderful, wonderful ideas, and has incredible energy and the ability to, she's devoting 1 worker to the process. The postmaster has been on board with joining her as well, and I believe Top Notch Seed will be providing some additional hands.
Fantastic.
So looking forward to the fruits of those labors. Wanted to also note, just as a takeoff, a short takeoff on the One World Beef related odor complaints, I do want to report to the council and to the public that this has really been the first odor upset since the opening or reopening of the facility. And the good news is there was coordination in advance. The city was advised that maintenance activities were scheduled. They were not completed in the original defined time frame, but they are anticipated for completion tomorrow. The activities on premises have been performed during a window of time where there's no kill in their operations. So the water flow that's normally a part of the ponds isn't part of the operations because they're in the process of removal of some of those solids. So it's a temporary set of circumstances, and we do expect conditions to improve. The communication has been strong on our operations side as well as One World Beef. So I think those are all very, very positive signs. Also want to note, Chief Kelly Brown did take a moment today to prepare a report to council, and it's available to the public as well, regarding the call volume associated with anything that came into dispatch on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, but also the number of calls specifically that pertain to fireworks. And I just want to note for the public's benefit that it was a total of 7 calls and only 2 specific addresses were provided. So we did not issue any citations, unfortunately, and we certainly appreciate the upset that it causes to household pets. We did receive reports of 5 lost dogs as a result of the fireworks activity.
My dog just gets mad.
let's see. The last item I wanted to note is just a preview of a future issue that I anticipate will likely land with each of you. This afternoon, I received a phone call from a local merchant in the downtown area. And as we're beginning to see more occupancy in the downtown area, I think there's going to be a lot of new concerns raised about public parking, specifically in the area where the adult day out facility is opening on Main, so between the two pharmacies. You may recall the city, now we can talk about it in public, there was a land swap that involved, there are 3 parcels in the rear parking lot between G and Main and 6th and 8th. And the city was involved in a parcel swap with the Machado O'Brien ownership of Adult Day Out. So now the city owns the parcel that's closest to the burned building in 8th and G. And Adult Day Out owners now own the 2 parcels that abut. So there, you may have noticed that there was overlay work in the parking lot for the 2 parcels they own. There was some striping work performed. There was a shade erected, and we are expecting in the very near future perimeter fencing to come up. Now, as a result of the activity, it has caused some of the merchants to become concerned that parking that had once been available to them is no longer going to be available to their patrons. Even though that property was not ours, and it has been historically, in the city's downtown area, historically the city has entered into lease agreements. This was in a period in the 90s and early 2000s. None of those leases are in place anymore, so they're not reserved for use. And in an instance like what we experienced with Adult Day Out, where they rehab the interior of a facility and use it for a different purpose than its prior use, I think we're going to begin to see some concerns about the parking inventory diminishing. So I did encourage the property owner to present his concerns in writing. He wanted to know, was the city going to fence off the parcel that we owned? I said, these are all really valid questions. We're trying our best to balance all the interests in the downtown. Everyone would love to have an improved parking lot like we see on G behind Victory Outreach and the Benson Suites. Yeah. And in a perfect world, we'd have the ability to overlay, stripe, light, and make them very, very safe and accessible. But we have some limitations on the parcels we own versus don't. So I do think we're going to see those concerns coming forward in the very near future, and a desire for the council to weigh in on ensuring that public lots that the city does have site control of, that there is a action taken by the council to preserve them as public parking purposes in the future.
Rosanna, when you were talking about that, actually I had received a complaint already on 6th Street where they recently opened that restaurant, and then there's the furniture store there. Sylvia's Treasures. Sylvia's Little Treasures. And then there's people that park there to go into the pharmacy. Mm-hmm. And so I went into one of those places the other day, and they were asking me what they can do about that, because according to them, some of the folks that park there stay there. And is that a 2-hour limit there, or what is it on 6th Street? Or is there a limit?
No. I don't believe so, and it has been an issue that's arisen in the past relative to, I think the historic dispute has been between employees of the pharmacy at the corner and other users.
Maybe the discussion of parking might even be related to relinquishment discussion, which is a much bigger of how those are allocated, but I know it's getting brought up more. Would be great strategy workshop discussions.
Yeah, because I told them I would follow up, and actually I hadn't checked with the chief to see if there was a 2-hour limit, or I didn't see any signs, but.
I recall this issue arising in the last 5 years. We can dust off our last presentation and see where we stand relative to it. I know there are signs, but something tells me they were non-enforceable for some reason. We'll come back with an update on that item.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
But yeah, that's probably going to be a continuing issue now with more activity.
Question from Councilmember Couchman.
Question, Rosanna. My understanding is that the barbecue place next to Togo's is open?
Yes.
Okay.
open already?
Okay, because I went by there today, and I walked in, just introduced myself, because they were working on it. It looked like they were still doing work, and they said they were open, but I had not seen anything about them being open, I don't think.
I believe immediately prior to the Christmas holiday, we were prepared to release the COO and business license. The sign I saw on it today was, it had a temporary sign that said, I thought it said welcome.
It said grand opening.
Grand
I think.
opening,
Grand
okay,
opening,
but
but
not
I
anything
did.
that's
But that had been
coordinated.
up for a week or two, I think, or about a week or two, or a week and a half.
It was released last Thursday. Okay.
So when I went in to talk to the gentleman that was there, I just kind of introduced myself, and he said, "Oh no, we're open." And so this was like 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock in the morning, but I wasn't going to eat, but I did go in to introduce myself. Yeah, I wasn't prepared to do that.
I wasn't going to buy anything.
I was going in for coffee, at
It's
Starbucks.
Korean, isn't it? Like Korean?
Yes, it's like a Korean style barbecue. Yes, yes. But I just wanted to make sure that we were all on everything was on the same page with that. Okay, okay.
Thank you very much. Going along with the comments that you've shared and the rest of council, I do want to let you know I am excited for 2018, and there's going to be some radical propositions that I will bring to council. I'm hoping that we can see some change in the downtown area, and hope you embrace some of the ideas. So some things that I've talked about in the past, but I would like to see them. I know we've been waiting, kicking the can down the road for years on certain items, but I think this is a time that we really need to take a step in the right direction. And so anyway, just a side comment. So
Just, Mr. Mayor, just one other thing. When you referred to that report that you did about 8 months ago on some of the issues that the business owners shared with you, could you have either send that to us just as a refresher, because
Sure.
I don't know if I kept all that information.
Sure, we can
in there.
certainly
We can
revisit
send
that.
out-
Yeah,
Okay.
we can
All right.
revisit that.
PowerPoint.
But like I said, I mean, I think there's a lot to discuss, and more than just discussion, I'm hoping that the council is very proactive in implementing some positive change. So anyway.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Our city attorney.
Okay, so building department sent over a code enforcement case the other day. I went and took a look at it. It's over on East G Street. It's a real bad mess. And checked, the owner's deceased according to the public records. So I've ordered a title report to see if anybody has liens on it. And I really don't know exactly what we're going to do. I have to talk to Rosanna and find out what's in the budget. At first I thought, well, we'll get a health and safety code receiver, but I don't think there's enough money in the property to warrant that. It looks like it just needs to be scraped off, and that's very expensive, as you know. I can tell you, fireworks, Calipatria PD brought me 2 fireworks citations today. I wrote Calip a very severe fireworks ordinance years ago. It's a $1,000 fine, but I had to reject them both, and he knew I was going to reject them because it's like fireworks at this house cited this guy. There's no witness, and I know that Chief can tell you. I've ridden with Calipat PD every 4th of July for the last 10 years, and we almost never catch anybody. And that whole town's on fire on 4th of July. So it's really tough. It's a tough deal.
Maybe a robust reward system, because it really comes down to citizens,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
calling in on
that might
other
work in
citizens.
Brawley, but you don't tell the police anything in Calipat.
Yes. Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
That could be.
It's hazardous for us.
Right, I know.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Use
It is.
drones. You
Good,
can
no,
start
we
using
have,
drones.
We can use drones. DEA too.
All right,
We have
everyone.
helicopters
We
and
will
stuff,
move
too.
on to the city treasurer's report.
I don't know if it's worth it.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Bless you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good
gonna say
evening
that's
once
enough.
again, Ruby Walla, City Treasurer. Just an update for you this evening that the mid-December following our last council meeting, I was approached by some community to reinvest with them additional funds to increase our investment, offering us the same $1 million at 1.5%, or we can go 1.5 million at 1.6%, being with the 1.6 and how I reported prior, LAIF is slowly climbing up at 1.06 at this moment. I discussed with city manager, it would be advantageous to go at the 1.5 million at 1.6% just to lead a little bit further, leaving up as a total of 2.5 million that will be invested with Sun Community. It will be, we already have a form in place for the insured portion. And then this would be a seamless process as we already have the account established, and it would just be a new CD list, a separate CD, 12-month CD listed under with Sun Community. So we're in the process of getting that together and going and bringing additional opportunity to the city and working with our local banking institution.
Fantastic. Better position than what we were in a few years back. So
Yes, great.
Very,
Yes.
very good. Thank you very much.
Good. Thanks.
City clerk's report.
I'm working with the city clerks from the Valley to do an ethics training, hopefully sometime in February or March. So whoever has it, we're still trying to figure out where to host it. We might just even do it here, and we could do it from the website. I know the planning commissioners, I have plenty of planning
this would
commissioners.
be a great location.
So I'll keep you guys posted. We're trying to figure out.
Thank you. Well, thank you, everybody. Listen, we're going to go into closed session immediately for the sake of time. So let's not even take a break. Let's go straight into closed session. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.